Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are going to reread the story, The Country Mouse and the City Mouse, and it's retold by Jeff Banner. Yesterday we read this story, and when we read it, we wanted to focus on the vocabulary words. So, what good readers do, once they've read a story one time from beginning to end, you want to go back and you want to reread the story and dig a little bit deeper so that you know what the story is about. So, The Country Mouse and the City Mouse, this type of story is a fable. So, we talked about what a fable was yesterday. A fable is going to have characters that are animal characters in the story. So, the animal characters are kind of going to behave like people. They're going to talk, they're going to have actions, and they're going to have a problem, and then their problem is solved in the solution, much like a regular story. Fables also have a theme at the end of the story or a moral. So we've talked about theme before, and we know that the theme of a story is the lesson learned. And when we want to figure out what the lesson that we can learn from the story, we want to look at the words and the actions of the characters and think about, well, what happened to the characters in the story that is teaching us an important lesson about life? So I'm going to go and I'm going to reread The Country Mouse and the City Mouse again, and then we are going to talk about some of the details that help us determine the theme. The Country Mouse and the City Mouse, retold by Jeff Banner. One day, Country Mouse invited an old friend from the city to visit her. Country Mouse welcomed City Mouse with a delicious meal of fresh barley and corn. City Mouse was very quiet, so Country Mouse asked her whether anything was wrong. I was just missing the city, she replied wistfully. You can come visit one day. There are lots of good things to eat. Country Mouse thought this was a very good idea, so a few weeks later, she traveled to the city. City Mouse invited her friend for dinner at her favorite restaurant. Country Mouse followed City Mouse as she tiptoed quietly into the cupboard and listened. So what are we doing? Asked Country Mouse. Shh, we're doing a bit of eavesdropping, City Mouse whispered. When the cook leaves for the night, we can help ourselves to that second bag of sugar over there. The first one is up too high. A light went out and it grew quiet. City Mouse nibbled a hole in the bag and the Country Mouse took the teeniest taste. I've never tasted anything so wonderful in my life, she cried. Just then, the mice heard a scuffling sound coming from behind the cupboard door. Run for your life! Screamed City Mouse. That's Esperanza, the cook's rotten cat, City Mouse explained when they were safe. You don't want to meet or make her acquaintance. One swipe from her claws and it's over. When she's asleep again, we can go back for more sugar. But Country Mouse was too frightened to go back, so they followed a new route down to the basement instead. There they found a jumble of grain bags stacked randomly against the wall. Country Mouse happily nibbled this and that. Then she saw something that made her mouth water, a hunk of cheese. Country Mouse was about to bite it when, Stop! Yelled City Mouse. Can't you see that's a trap? She said scornfully. One nibble and that big metal thing comes crashing down. Country Mouse was horrified. The city was not the safest, most logical place for a mouse to live or visit. So Country Mouse went home and never visited the city again. So now what we are going to be doing, boys and girls, is we are going to reread for comprehension. And while we are rereading for comprehension, we want to use this strategy. And the strategy is to visualize. So when you are reading a story, the author is going to give you a lot of details that's going to help you create a mind movie, a picture in your brain, so that you know that you understand what is happening in the story. And that's going to help us with our skill theme. So it says, in a fable, the theme may be expressed as the moral of a story. To identify the theme, look for clues in the story about the characters. Visualize and think about what the characters say and do and what happens as a result. Then think about what lesson or message the author wants the readers to learn. Reread the selection and use your theme chart to help you analyze the theme. So boys and girls, this is what the theme chart looks like. I'm going to give you a copy of one that looks similar, not exactly the same, but similar, and it looks, oops, hello, okay, went a little crazy. So that is your chart that you're going to each get a copy of in your Google Classroom. Sorry, it went a little nuts. So you're going to use this chart. We're going to fill in some of the clues together, and then you will fill in the last clue and the theme on your own. So let's do some of the first clues together. So when I go back and reread, I want to think about different ideas that kind of happen over and over again, that are repeated, these repeated ideas. So the first thing I want us to think about is, if we look at this paragraph here, I want to visualize what is happening. I want to make a mind movie in my brain. So I'm going to start at this paragraph, and as I'm reading, I want to think about, well, what do I see in my brain, and what is happening that might help me understand what the theme is. So it says, Country Mouse thought this was a very good idea, so a few weeks later she traveled to the city. City Mouse invited her friend for dinner at her favorite restaurant. Country Mouse followed City Mouse as she tiptoed quietly into a cupboard and listened. So they're tiptoeing, and they're doing it quietly, and they're in a cupboard. A cupboard is like a cabinet in your kitchen to store things. So I'm imagining and I'm visualizing these two little mice, and they're tiptoeing ever so quietly. And then Country Mouse asks, so what are we doing? Look at what City Mouse says. He goes, shh, we're doing a bit of eavesdropping. And when the cook leaves for the night, we can help ourselves to that second bag of sugar. So when you're eavesdropping, if you remember, this is one of our vocabulary words. It means that you're listening in on someone's conversation and they don't want you to know that you're there. So it's almost like you're spying on somebody and you want to be really, really quiet. So when I think about going to a restaurant, when I go to a restaurant, I sit down at the table, I order my meal, and the waiter brings it out for me. When I go to a restaurant, I don't tiptoe around and kind of hide and wait for everyone to leave so that when they leave, I can go ahead and get some food out of the kitchen. That wouldn't be right for me to do, because after the restaurant's closed, I don't belong there. I shouldn't be there. So that's the connection that I can make with what's happening here. These two mice are somewhere where they don't belong. They shouldn't be at this restaurant, tiptoeing around and being sneaky so that when the cook is gone, they're going to help themselves to sugar. So that is my first detail. And if I get back to my theme chart, my clue number 1 is that City Mouse and Country Mouse are hiding in the restaurant, waiting. Oops, and I misspelled restaurant. Just back and fix that. Waiting for the cook to leave so they can steal the sugar. Okay, so that's my first detail. So I know that they're kind of being sneaky and they're eavesdropping, and they are somewhere where they shouldn't be. So let me go back to the story. Now we're going to continue to the next page. Now I want to look for another important event. So now I'm going to get down a little bit into here. All right, so then all of a sudden they hear a cat. And City Mouse says that that's Esperanza, and that you don't want to meet this cat because from one swipe from her and it's all over. And then so they're saying when she's asleep, we can go back for some more sugar. So this is another clue. that they should not be there, because that cat, if that cat sees them, that cat is going to get those mice. So I know that they should not be at the restaurant trying to steal that sugar. So that's my next clue. So they hide from the cook's cat, Esperanza. If she sees them, she will catch them. So I know that they don't want to be in that position where they get caught by Esperanza the cat. So that's another clue that helps me realize that these two, they do not belong in that restaurant. They don't belong somewhere where they shouldn't be. So what you're going to do now is you are going to start from right here, from But Country Mouse was too frightened to go back, and you are going to reread the rest of the story on your own. When you are done, you are going to find one more important event to add to your theme chart. So these are the two parts that you are going to finish. I'm going to highlight the two parts that you are going to finish. You are going to think about the clues in the story, what we know that's happening. You're going to find one more important clue, and then you are going to write down in words what you think the theme of the story is. Now, remember, when you write a theme, you do not include characters or events when you write the theme, okay? Because the theme is a lesson learned. It's something that you want to be able to apply to other stories. So if you're talking about the Country Mouse and the City Mouse, when you're writing down your theme, that's not going to be something that you can apply to another story. You want to think about, what lesson did you learn? Okay? So this is what you are going to do today for your reading practice. You're going to practice theme. So once you're done, make sure you turn it in so I can see how you did. All right, good luck, girls.